Welcome to part 2 of adjective clauses. So in part 1, we looked at using adjective clauses when the relative pronoun is the subject. In this video, we're going to look at using adjective clauses when the relative pronoun is the object. And we're going to finish up by looking at essential versus non-essential adjective clauses. Sometimes you may find that the common element between two sentences is contained in their objects rather than their subjects. So in this case, we have two sentences: the tomb held King Tut's treasures, and the archaeologists discovered them. And the common element is the object, King Tut's treasures, which is referenced in the second sentence by the object pronoun them. So to convert the second sentence into an adjective clause, we first need to replace the object pronoun them, them right here, with the relative pronoun which. Then we need to move which to the front of the adjective clause. So we have which archaeologists discovered. Finally, you need to move the adjective clause so that it immediately follows the noun phrase it refers to. In this case, that's the end of the independent clause, King Tut's treasures, which is the object of that sentence. Notice the resulting sentence structure or word order. Your finished sentence begins with a subject and a verb, which is then followed by two objects, King Tut's treasures and the relative pronoun which. And then these objects are then followed by the subject of the adjective clause and its verb. So you end up with subject, verb, object, object, subject, verb. Notice too that the verb discovered is no longer followed by an object since it's been moved to the beginning of the adjective clause. So remember, we kept them, but we changed it to which, and we moved it up front. So in the adjective clause, there's nothing after discovered because its object is right here in front. That example was kind of easy because there was no additional information or language that followed the object pronoun them in the sentence we made into an adjective clause. Since ideas are often expressed in more complicated sentence structures, let's take a look at how you create an adjective clause from a sentence that has additional information following its object. So on this slide, we have two sentences that we want to combine. Egyptian pharaohs had many secrets, and scientists can learn about them through their research. Notice that the object pronoun them in the second sentence refers to many secrets. So we want to replace them with the relative pronoun that. And just like we did in the previous example, that gets moved up to the front of the adjective clause so that we have that scientists can learn about through their research. We can then place this adjective clause after the noun phrase many secrets. And we're done. Notice again that there is no longer any noun that comes after about. So we have scientists can learn about through their research. Instead, you have two prepositions right next to each other, about and through. Notice too that you have the same sentence structure or word order as in the previous example: subject, verb, object, object, subject, verb. Finally, there are going to be times when you have an adjective clause with a relative pronoun that's an object, and your adjective clause references the subject of your independent clause. So let's take a look at an example. Here we have two sentences. The money came from his parents, and Bezos started Amazon with it. The object pronoun it in the second sentence refers to the money, which is the subject of the first sentence. Following all the same steps that we've used before, we replace the pronoun it with the relative pronoun that, and we move it to the beginning of our adjective clause. So we have that Bezos started Amazon with. Next, we move the adjective clause so that it comes immediately after the subject it's referring to, in this case, the money. And we have our new sentence. The money that Bezos started Amazon with came from his parents. This sentence also has a somewhat odd structure or word order at the beginning, as it begins with a subject, which is immediately followed by an object, which is immediately followed by the subject and verb of the adjective clause. So here we have our subject and then a verb. Now is your opportunity to practice combining two sentences when the relative pronoun in the adjective clause is the object. As a reminder, here are the steps that we've been following. First, identify the pronoun in the second sentence. So in this case, you have to decide if the pronoun you're going to be looking at is he or them. Second, choose your relative pronoun based on whether the relative pronoun refers to a person or thing. Third, move the adjective clause so that the relative pronoun follows the noun it refers to in the first sentence. The sentences you are writing here do not need commas. You'll be typing the new sentences with adjective clauses in the box on the left. Please check your spelling, punctuation, and capitalization before submitting your answers. In the last section of this video, we'll be going over definitions and differences between essential and non-essential adjective clauses. In general, an adjective clause is considered essential if the sentence with the adjective clause would have a different meaning if the adjective clause was removed. However, there are also some guidelines to follow when deciding whether an adjective clause is essential or non-essential. So for example, in this first sentence, Berners-Lee, who invented the web, is very creative and intelligent. The adjective clause, who invented the web, is considered non-essential because the noun it's referencing is a proper noun. It doesn't matter if you and I don't know who Berners-Lee is, and therefore consider the information in the adjective clause to be essential. The idea here is that by using his name, you've made your noun specific. Thus, the information in the adjective clause is not needed to identify who this individual further. However, if the subject of this sentence was the man instead of Berners-Lee, the information in the adjective clause would be considered essential because we don't know which man is being referred to unless we know that it's the man who invented the web. The same is true if the adjective clause references an entire group of something. The idea here is that if your adjective clause doesn't narrow the group it's referencing, then it's non-essential. So here we have elephants, which live in matriarchal family groups, are the largest land mammals. It's considered non-essential because the information in it is about all elephants, not just some of them. However, if the information in the adjective clause was changed to which live in Asia, then this would be considered essential because it's excluding elephants that live in Africa. So it's making this group of elephants smaller or more specific. Notice that when the information is considered non-essential, then the adjective clause has a comma before it and one after it. So here are our commas. Essential adjective clauses make the nouns they're referring to more specific. So in this case, this first sentence, the elephant that was moved to the sanctuary originally worked in a circus. The adjective clause that was moved to the sanctuary makes it clear which specific elephant I'm referring to. The same is true when the adjective clause references a group of something, as in this case. My grandson got to see the elephants that live at the Oakland Zoo. Notice that the adjective clause that live at the Oakland Zoo makes it clear which group of elephants my grandson saw. And notice that when the information in the adjective clause is considered essential, there are no commas either before or after it. Finally, note here that the word, the relative pronoun that cannot begin a non-essential adjective clause. So if you are going to have commas around your adjective clause, you can use who for a person or which for a thing, but you cannot use that. So here you get to practice identifying whether an adjective clause is essential or non-essential. In this exercise, you will write NC for no commas in the box on the left if you think that the adjective clause is essential to identifying the noun the clause is referencing. If you think the adjective clause is non-essential, then you'll add commas before and after the adjective clause and rewrite the sentence in the box on the left. Congratulations, you worked hard. Take a break and celebrate your dedication and persistence.